Hey everyone, this is Rom,
And Michelle.
and welcome to Bunebape, your weekly podcast and everything you need to know about old school RuneScape.
Meep.
Oh.
Mer.
All right, so this week
The
up
dog sound.
on the docket, of course, as always, we'll be starting off with what we have been up to this week. And
Mhm.
then once all that's over with, we can jump into what's going on with all of these blogs, because there's a lot of them this week. We're going to be kicking it off with some NPC defense changes, actually, some changes to the stuff from last week. And then also on the same line of stuff from last week, we'll be going over this week's update, which was pretty much just more updates on last week's update.
Well, we get CAs.
We
We're getting
do
more
get CAs.
CAs.
Yeah, we do get some new stuff as well. And then speaking of stuff that I don't even know how I'm going to roll
Why
into
does he
this
try to
one. Uh,
segue? Your urge to segue at all times is hilarious.
yeah, I don't
You
even.
can just say next up.
It's because they're whenever I was looking at them, they were all in like different orders, so I actually didn't even know where I was going there. Anyways, we can go. We're gonna go into the project rebalance and item combat adjustments. The reason we're saving that for last is because I have a really strong feeling there's gonna be some additional changes to it.
That's what we thought last week or the other week, and then we got it backwards, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think a lot of them suck, so hopefully there's some changes by tomorrow.
Oh my god. Okay.
And then we'll be ending off with a Q&A as per usual. If you want to join, feel free to ask us questions on any of our socials, Bunebape at most places, as well as our discord.gg/Bunebape. And we do have a questions section there, and we'll answer anything about the game, other games, or real life. But before we get into all that super cool stuff, Michelle, how's it going?
It's going well. I've been. What did I even do this week? I did my scurriest cosplay last week. I don't know if I've told you guys how I had to cut a line in my eyebrow, and it's
It was
no,
really
I
cool.
didn't. Yeah, it doesn't look great. It looks better than it did whenever I did it last week though, because it's growing in already. I did super crooked, so I'm looking kind of goofy. But I did my scurriest cosplay. Still haven't got my scurriest pet. I did some Tobs this week. We got a rapier, so that was 14 mil. That is the only money I've made this week.
Nice, big money.
Yeah, huge money. What else did I even do? I did a few CAs. And the main thing I've just been doing is like preparing for the fundraising again. So Friday, I'm going to be dressed as Anna in a barrel, which is an interesting one. My cosplay is sitting on the ground and it's just cardboard boxes with
No,
tape.
it's a barrel.
Uh huh. It's a really disheveled looking barrel with the Amazon logo on the back where no one
It's
will
a
see it.
barrel.
It's a weird looking barrel. So I'm gonna be dressed as Anna in a barrel this week, which should be interesting. Our boss competition, by the way. Well, every Friday I do fundraising streams for Runefest or standing outside of Runefest, and I dress up in costumes and we do a boss competition. This week it's going to be any of the God War Dungeon bosses, not including Next, because if someone got dropped in Next, it would just be done immediately. And I'm not even going to be able to play with you guys because I'm doing a bingo at the same time and I can't go with other people
So
of my
two
group.
events at once.
Two events at once. I'm doing Nunu Nell's bingo. I don't know if anyone's going to want to do the boss bash because I am not going to play with them, but whatever. I'm leaving it up for everyone to see if they want to enter or not.
Yeah, I
And
mean it's a free chance at some loot.
at
So
10 mil.
yeah,
Yeah, true. And I feel like I haven't done anything, so that's why I'm just like kind of zooming through these.
I mean that's okay to not have any updates. There's a lot to go over this week.
There was one more thing, more like a community update. Megan, my friend, Megan Eve, she is taking care of 7 cats right now, and she's doing a little fundraiser on Saturday to help her with like the vet bills and stuff. She has her whole story on Twitter if you want to go see it. But Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, twitch.tv/Megan Eve if you want to go to her fundraiser too.
Many funding,
Mm-hmm.
many raisings.
Slightly better reason. It's for cats.
I don't know the
Mine's to go to
cats.
England and just say in it in front of
They
everyone.
might be bad cats.
If you, I'll show you later.
Okay,
They're little
they're
potatoes.
terrible.
They're not terrible.
Um,
How are you?
that's it.
Yeah.
I do have some community highlights that I
Mhm.
like to go over every week, highlighting stuff that's going on in the community. And the first one that I thought was actually really cool and took a lot of effort was a shout out to the Treasure Trails subreddit, is
Oh my
what I think it
god.
is.
You told me about this.
Yeah, so essentially, this person did a ton of testing on the beta worlds using a bunch of caskets and, switching between different caskets in order to see whether their hypothesis on why masters sometimes are weird.
Yeah, why
And
master clue drops feel wrong.
yeah. So after all of their tests, they do have a too long didn't read because I don't want to spend 10 minutes telling you about their tests.
You did to me.
They did seem fairly thorough though.
Hmm.
But I don't know if this is intended, but from their little hypothesis and test, they pretty much came to the conclusion that every time you open a clue casket and receive a master clue scroll, there is a 30-second cooldown timer. During that time, any caskets that are opened cannot give a master clue, even if you drop the previous one you just got on the floor. And the number of master clues on the floor has no impact on your chances of getting another one.
Hmm.
So it's safe to stack master clues on the floor while doing clue openings, but always wait 30 seconds if you want to get a master clue.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
They did
So
a lot of testing. They had like 1,000 caskets, I
yeah,
think.
they opened several hundred elites multiple times over in order to get these results. So I don't, take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, I don't know this person, but they
Mhm.
seem to have done a fairly thorough test.
Yeah, just be a little careful if you're spam clicking open your caskets trying to hope to get master.
Yeah. Something I thought was funny is no accounts in the top 25 of Leviathan have any other kill counts.
Classic.
Kind of cool. We saw some bunnies this weekend that I'm skipping over.
Yeah, I was looking at the buddies.
Yeah. Also, shout out to also the person that did that testing. Unfortunately, I forgot to get their username. I don't know if that matters or not, but I forgot.
Why did the way you said unfortunately, I thought you were gonna say like they died. I
No,
was convinced. Like, unfortunately, they passed
I mean
away.
I don't know that for sure, but I don't think so.
That'd be kind of weird.
Shout out to Vikings 2. I don't know if they're, from Europe and it's Vikings from where they are.
Vikings.
But anyways, they're the world first and probably world only to ever get an Iron Man 10 HP, 1 defense, 1 prayer, Monkey Madness 2 completion. Because in order to kill Gloff, they go through a very detailed explanation of how they killed Gloff. You cannot kill him via normal means.
Do you have to have Neve do it for you?
You
That's what
can
I did.
only kill him via recoils.
Oh,
And his health per second recharge, or his health recharge, is fairly high.
do you just
So
keep dying and coming back?
the
Like,
thing is, apparently the first 2 phases aren't that bad. They take around 20 minutes each, and you have to tick eat with purple sweets because your entire inventory will be full with recoils.
my God.
And he's an iron, so they're saying they spent many days farming easies and mediums just so that they could get enough purple sweets for 1 attempt.
My goodness.
And so the first 2 phases were about 20 minutes each. And then they had to do a really weird animation stall, which included them spending about like a minute or something in between each animation stall for each time that they enabled the recoil on Gloff in the 3rd phase. And that phase alone took them over 5.5 hours.
Bro.
It took them 6 hours to attempt this boss, and luckily they got it first try.
Ew. Yeah, no.
So that's why I said likely the only Iron Man to ever do this with 10 HP, 1 defense, and 1 prayer.
It might inspire someone.
Yeah, maybe.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of crazy, but pretty cool. Another shout out, or also a shout out to Zigzag Ziggle. They actually
Zigzaggy gal is how I read it. But it's probably-
Zigzaggy Gal. Actually, that's probably more likely.
I just saw gal.
Okay. Shout out to whoever you are. They did a very thorough. This is actually really recent too. It's probably still up there, but they did a very thorough rework or reimagining of what Karamja would look like.
It looks very well done. It looks nice.
This isn't it. There is 19 slides, all with graphics, including new bosses, underground areas, and reworked the entire zone.
It's not just this.
No, it is very, very thorough,
Oh,
and
God.
they did a very good job.
That's cool. I thought
Yeah.
the one picture was cool.
No, the one picture is cool. Like I said, they have an overview picture of like what Karamja is look like. They moved where like the cities are, where the Karazi jungle is, and stuff like that. But yeah, they included bosses and everything that I'm not showing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a very very good job. So I had to shout it out because I thought it was really really cool
Well done.
and actually pretty well thought out as well. Besides that though, I think that's pretty much it.
The
Most
rest
of
is more related to what we're gonna say.
yeah, the rest is related on what I hope they plan to change in the project rebalance stuff. So I'll bring that up if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's it. We can probably move into the project rebalance NPC defense changes from last week. There was a little bit of an update there.
So, if you guys remember last week, we talked a lot about elemental weaknesses. So they said these proposals went down really positively with many of you, but there are a handful of tweaks we wanted to address. To group up a few key concerns, we've made some changes to the weaknesses we spoke about last week to roll out a handful of air weaknesses, corrected mistakes with consistency between various dragons, which was, I know, your issue.
Yeah, I told you they fixed it though,
Yeah.
so that was cool. It just was really
in a blog post yet.
yeah, it was really weird, and they didn't confirm it until like the day after or something.
Yeah. Improve the severity of weaknesses in cases where players would lose damage versus what they're already doing. And improve the severity of weaknesses in cases where you felt some of the listed NPCs should be weaker to a certain element. So by the last point, we mean things like making creatures like ice giants or fire giants even weaker to the relevant element to better differentiate them from other NPCs, which just like makes sense, like
Yeah.
fire giant should be weaker to water than the giant mole.
Yeah, so like yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Is like I mean, it's cool that multiple things can be weak to water, but the fact that fire giants were on the same level as giant mold didn't make sense.
Yeah, the fire giants, their water weakness went from 50% to 100%.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But they have a whole expansive list, but we could just do the sum up of it.
Yeah,
It's a
so
lot of numbers.
yeah, they pretty much updated all of the mobs that they planned on changing, which was like 15, but they do have a thing summarizing it saying that metal dragons will be weak to earth, chrome dragons will be weak to water, ghosts or anything wobbly
Wobbly air
will be weak to air. Big flying birds like aviances are going to be weak to air, which I thought didn't make sense at all because they are literally flying.
I think that's why they said, imagine you're disrupting their natural movement. Because they knew people were going to be like, why?
That doesn't make any sense, but okay. You'd think that they would be the strongest against air. That's what I would think. Demons are weak to water. No one knows why. Spiders, weak to fire. Scarabs, weak to fire. Anything heavily elemental. Literally, the NPC has the word fire ice in its name, will be countered by the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Zora having a weakness applied means that a regular Trident of the Seas should no longer outperform the Harmonized Nightmare Staff and the Fire Surge, which we all have.
Yeah, no, I use it all the time.
Yeah, of course. So they hope that this kind of makes sense and evens things out. And yeah, honestly, a lot of this kind of makes sense and stuff that we brought up earlier.
They just want to feel intuitive, like other games have weaknesses. It's been weird that we didn't.
Yeah, they say in addition to the above, we saw a number of suggestions that we thought were pretty neat. Some of these touched on the ideas like assigning most, if not all, spells or magic items some kind of elemental component, or on giving spells of different elements unique and interesting passives. We liked a lot of these, but it just seems like it's out of their scope for the time being, and so they want to ship this and it feel good whenever it ships instead of having to work on this for a really long time.
Yeah, they're just trying to get one thing out at a time.
Yeah.
On this topic, we are going to move on to range weaknesses. Some of you had questions around the choice to use ammunition as the determining factor for these weaknesses instead of weapon type.
That's what I thought was weird.
Yes, I know you did.
It didn't make sense.
As it stands, ammunition is effectively wholly dependent on weapon type, but this approach gives us flexibility down the line to introduce weapons that might interact with multiple ammunition types. It also means we could easily position things like darts alongside the toxic blowpipe so that players who aren't as far along their journey can still engage with the idea of bringing the right tool for the job. To be clear,
That's not a good answer.
I don't
That's
think
just a lot of words for not a good answer, in my opinion.
I think that this one was interesting because we were talking a lot about this. They say, to be clear, we're absolutely not attached to heavy, standard, and light as the names for various weaknesses and welcome any and all suggestions. I think that was something that bothered us a lot, was that not everything fit in that category. And
Yeah,
this is kind of
it didn't
weird.
make sense. And they're talking about taking suggestions from a lot of people were saying use the barb assault thing because barbarian assault uses different words.
Yeah, barbed and bullet, for example. So if you have any ideas, let them know. They're open to anything that sounds like more casual and kind of makes sense. They've also seen terms like piercing or impact, which have been suggested. I actually really like piercing impact. I think they sound kind of cool.
Yeah, whatever
Definitely
you want to
mentioned heavy,
call it.
standard, and light.
I really don't care. Just don't do heavy, standard, and light, I guess.
Yeah. The other motivator for our approach is the potential to add some more unique character to weapons in the future, potentially producing some unique interactions. For example, longbows could distinguish themselves from shortbows by firing arrows but targeting heavy defenses, which might offer alternative approaches for gearing throughout various stages of progression.
No, it wouldn't. That's crazy.
If you have any neat ideas around our war space to play into the system and diversify range a little bit, we are all ears.
It's crazy that they would say that because, like I said, this just does less to your efforts. It still does less to your efforts, even bringing this up because, like, okay, it fires heavy, for example, in their example. When would a longbow firing heavy ever compete with a crossbow and an offhand?
Yeah. You
Never. I don't.
It's not, yeah, I don't know.
Like what?
I don't. I mean,
Crazy.
to your point, they even said a number of comments point out that we didn't have a great deal of standard or light weaknesses in the mix for our initial proposal, which the heavy was crossbows. This is something we'd love your help with too. If you have any candidates you think make sense for certain range weaknesses, drop them to us and we can always expand the list. Examples we've seen so far have been like crabs, including light weakness because they're kind of a training NPC, stuff like that. And humanoid creatures having a standard weakness because we're fleshy targets, it says.
It's just that's such a weird rationale. Yeah, they need to move away from the light and standard. I'm like, what?
It's so funny because if they just like made stuff up and used the words like piercing or impact, I'd be like, yeah, nice. But now that they're using the heavy and light is really throwing me off.
It's not good because, like,
It's not good.
even taking their example, a humanoid that's struck with a standard projectile, you're like, oh, it messes them up. If they were struck with an even heavier projectile, they would just be dead.
Heavy, yeah. Their initial choice of words was not good because heavy will always sound worse.
Yeah, heavy is going to transfer way more force.
Piercing and impact both sound good, and you're like, I don't really know either of those would be. They both sound bad.
Yeah, this is you need to move away from this. This is not good.
Happy that they said that they're not gonna do that anymore.
Yeah.
Not about that for like 10 minutes last week.
Yeah, none of these are good, so I hope they change them. And yeah, it's weird.
There are 2 more NPCs that have been added to the list, by the way, that are going to get like range weaknesses. The first would be Nex, heavy weakness.
Heavy weakness.
Whatever their heavy weakness is. The reasoning here is that crossbows were always meant to excel at Nex, but are largely outclassed by the Fang. While the Fang is always going to be good at Nex, doubling down on your bolts offering more bang for the buck is something we want to do. And the Flying Vespula light weakness will be added. In our Chambers of Zarek mini overhaul last year, we made the traditional means of killing Vespula a little more viable. So this might help you if you don't want to do the redemption method. You should really just learn the redemption method.
That's crazy. Imagine bringing a blowpipe to kill Vespula. That'd be crazy.
Oh, that's what the light is, huh?
That'd be wild. What a suggestion.
I don't know how people kill Vespula if they don't do redemption. I think I've done it before, but I don't remember.
I don't know, because redemption's just so much easier.
Because you have to do the portal. Like, I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. Anyways, that's it for now.
Wrapping up.
All these changes should be reflected in the beta right now, which I don't know if is still going on, hopefully.
Yeah, this blog came out the day after the podcast came out last week.
Yeah. So we would like to close off by answering some of your questions about whether or not this list is exhaustive. Initially, you wanted to roll out these weaknesses to everything, but we decided to pull it back. Essentially, they're saying the same thing about everything as they are about the initial weakness stuff, in that there's just too much stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to adjust like 1 to 2 NPCs every week, and yeah, and I think they'll eventually get to them all.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's
No, go ahead.
It's funny because they said they don't want to do everything all at once, but they also say that they don't want to do it so slowly that you'll have to trawl through every game update blog to find out if anything changed. Oh, they said they don't want to do 1 or 2 a week. They don't want it. They said they'd much rather make a bit of a song and dance about a group of changes that are well communicated and subject to your feedback.
Okay, so yeah, they say it won't specifically be 1 or 2, but I mean, it'll probably be like 5 or 10. I don't know.
That's a lot more.
Yeah, whatever it is, it won't be all of them at once. So
Okay.
don't look forward to that. But you can look forward to this week's update, which is what we're going to move into.
Undead, pirate tweaks, Varlamore CAs, and more.
Yeah, it kind of says it all right there in the title, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should I go
so
line by line? Whenever it has lists, I love to go line by line. Like, no, like we go back and forth.
yeah, no. Sure, we can. So this is going to be about the Undead Pirates and the Wilderness update. This is stuff that we went over last week, but there have been changes because it didn't roll out as good as could be.
Yeah.
So since last week's update, we made some following hot fixes. So these were already in the game before this update, and it's that Kelder, the Elder Chaos Druids is what I was trying to say.
I didn't even know where you were looking. I was like, what is Kelder?
I was combining Chaos and Elder, so the Kelder Druids teleblock is now correctly removed whenever you leave the wilderness.
We've also stopped those pesky druids, the just to be clear, the Kelder druids, from closing your bank if you'd recently been in combat.
Yep. They also made the drop rate of the teleporting anchor scroll from the zombie pirate's locker has been made 1 in 275.
The teleport anchoring scroll is no longer doubled when obtained from the locker. I'm pretty sure it was worth like a few mil too.
Yeah. It's because okay, so the next line says zombie pirate keys now drop at a rate of 1 in 24, which is about half what it was before. This is collected data on the wiki is about half of what was assumed. And on average, assuming that you use all the keys you obtain, this makes the teleporting anchor scroll about 4 times more common.
Oh.
The teleporting anchor scroll, everyone didn't think it would be easy to get. We also didn't think it would be nearly one of the rarest items in the game, which it was on the wiki as a group of players decided that it was a 1 in 20,000 drop rate.
No way people thought that. That's
It was.
hilarious.
It was that rare. That's why it was millions.
Oh my god.
So now they've reduced or they've made it so that you can get it much more common. It's still very rare. 4 times as common is still pretty rare, 1 out of 5,000, but you can kill these guys pretty fast.
It's one of the weird things. It reminds me of like Skatizo drops because it's 1 out of 275 when you have a key, but first you have to go and grind a key, which is 1 out of 24.
Yeah.
It just makes it more confusing.
And they don't say, so they didn't actually lower the rate from the druids themselves. That's still a very, very low drop chance. They made it so it's more common from the locker and more common to get keys. So
they drop from the druids too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Let me double check just to make sure. The Kelder druids.
Elder Chaos Druids.
OSRS. I'm pretty sure they can drop from them. I don't want to be wrong.
We've never been wrong before.
I've literally never ever in my whole life been wrong.
Okay, after what felt like 5 minutes of looking that up on the wiki because I was trying to type with only my left hand.
Yeah, so it doesn't drop from the Elder Chaos Druids.
The Kelder Druids.
It drops from the pirates, but that has not changed.
That's 1 out of 20,000.
Yeah, the drop rate from the zombie pirates is still 1 out of 20,000, but they made it so that you can get the keys more commonly, and they made it so you get it from the chest more commonly. So because of those two things, it's 1 out of 5,000. But if you only killed the mobs and never actually used the keys, it's still 1 out of 20,000.
I mean, it's kind of like the Abyssal Dagger you can technically get from Abyssal Demons, but super rare. Because that's not the intended way to get it.
Yeah, I guess so.
But anyway.
Yeah, so those were the hot fixes from last week. There's additional changes, though, after some feedback.
So the feedback changes. They reduced the wander range of the Kelder Druids.
They also made it so RTO, Callisto, Calvary. Yeah, all the
reworked bosses.
Yeah, well, it's not. Is it?
It is, yeah.
No, Venenatis is on here.
No, Venenatis was reworked. You silly goosey.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah, I guess okay. Yeah. So all the wilderness bosses that were reworked won't attack for a short period, so you can manage your supplies a little better.
Increase the despawn timer of consumables dropped in the wilderness to 15 seconds.
Yeah, and I meant to say won't attack when they respawn immediately.
You walk in for the first time and they're
Yeah.
just like staring
They're just
at
like,
you.
it was
What's up?
They also fixed an issue stopping you from picking up loot on a particular tile in the Chaos Temple. I actually saw this. It's kind of funny.
Players can now take a pause between the Wilderness Agility course laps by logging out, although they'll lose 25 laps for doing so. Leaving the arena or dying will still end the streak.
This is huge.
They changed that.
Yeah, I still don't really like this, but I hated it before because it's
Slightly better now.
like, bro, you weren't gonna tank that far.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's essentially that was what they were doing is they're all like, oh, we want you to stay here for as long as possible, and then when you get attacked, you have to tank 50 wilderness levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Until you could get out.
bro, that's not happening, dude.
This is more. This makes more sense.
Yeah, this makes way more sense. Even though losing 25 is still kind of a lot.
The skeletons on the surface of the Wilderness Agility course now deal less damage. Watch out though, underground skeletons still hit for a max hit of 4.
Huge. Damage now correctly applies through the ladder animation at the Wildy Agi course.
The Wilderness Agility course lap streak and loot now display while game chat is set to filtered.
And when paying the 150k fee for the agility course, you'll now receive a looting bag if you don't currently have one.
That's kind of cute.
Pretty expensive bag.
The Ring of Wealth imbued now interacts properly with medium clue scrolls at the agility course.
Yeah, you should get them more often, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The spikes underneath the Wilderness Agility course no longer stop projectiles. They were kind of acting like a wall before.
From PKers?
Yeah.
Holy, that's funny. They moved the location of clue steps inside the Wilderness Agility course to a slightly quieter spot.
Yeah, the hards were moved to the frozen plateau, and the masters were moved to just the right of the agility course.
To the... Oh, yeah. I was looking at weird.
They also added some CAs.
Yeah, we got Varlamore CAs. It's so funny how long we had to wait for DT2, and now they're actually, like, on it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So now there are 12 new combat achievements for the Perilous Moons and 13 for the Colosseum, ranging from medium to Grandmaster, Elite being the highest for Perilous Moons, just in case you wanted to know.
And Elite being the start for Coliseum.
Also, at first glance, a lot of people were saying that the very last achievement for Perilous Moons was kind of a little suspect, but I'll leave you to go check it out.
Their font type just makes it a little interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Some standout ones for anyone that was wondering is Fat of the Land makes it so that you have to defeat 30 Moons of Peril bosses before leaving. This is 30 total. You don't have to do 30 completions, although you could.
So like 10 KC.
Yeah, exactly. And you can create the stuff inside of the dungeon, so this should be fairly doable for most players that can do it.
Cool. Some for Fortis Coliseum is using only the Zamora Costa or Spear to defeat Soul Heredit. That one's funny. It's called I Brought Mine Too.
Yeah. One that I thought was really funny is a master one called
Stop it.
Showboating. So you have to defeat Soul Heredit after Fortis saluting the north, east, south, and west of the arena while the boss is below 10% hit points.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny though.
So you kind of have to like flex on him before you kill him
That
while
is
he's
so
enraging.
Oh my god. And the Grandmaster speed time for Coliseum will be 24 minutes or less.
Yeah, pretty good.
Goodness gracious.
Pretty good. There a lot of these were I mentioned these because some people had questions on these and they were clarified by mods or stuff like that. So yeah, if you're wondering about some of these, then usually they have a pretty good job of clarifying in the comments.
Yeah. We're not going to go over that full list because it is like 30 of them.
Yeah.
But we'll be linking the blog notes.
We have some third-party client guideline updates. These are actually really cool because for anyone that doesn't know, Jagex is they can be very strict on certain weird third-party things, even though cheat clients exist. Just not talking about that. These though are newly removed from the disallowed features list. So that's just a really roundabout
sentence.
Yeah, this is a third grader's way of saying these are now allowed.
They're allowed. So any plugin which unhides, hides, or moves components of the spellbook interface. Resizing components of the spellbook interface is still prohibited though.
Yeah, they do go on later to say that this is to make it so that you can
Stop complaining about Hylux being moved.
Yeah, you can move your spellbook however you like. However the mods allow you to do it, you can do it because they got tired of, well, one, people complaining, and two, there was like a usability aspect of it that people like some people got used to the motions of clicking things, but also some people just were way better off. Like maybe they're like, physically challenged or something, and this just makes it way easier for certain players.
Yeah. Also, any plugin which adds additional menu entries which cause actions to be sent to the server. This one now includes exceptions for the Max Cape and Diary Cape. I have a hard time reading them, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so they clarified specifically that this is to mitigate things like whenever you are going through your max cape, there is potential for there to be multiple drop downs that you have to go through.
Oh, I saw someone using their Max Cape the other day and I'd never seen it before. Like they were live and I was like, oh my God.
Like you have to right click and then there's like a drop down. It's so if you are one of those people and you use your max cape often to teleport to some obscure location that has several drop downs, then you can just
Make it easier.
program it so that you can menu entry swapper that.
Cool. Also, any plugin
This is the biggest one.
which modifies menu options for construction, such as prioritizing build or remove options.
So this means you can stand in one place and
left click construction.
left click build, left click remove any construction thing, which is huge. For anyone that's ever done construction, this is
Yeah, that's nice.
massive, because you used to have to angle your camera in such a psychotic way.
Oh, I remember trying to do that and I hate
Insane. If you moved incorrectly, it's like, all right, I got to realign the stars real quick. So yeah, just some really big quality of life things. These don't directly affect anything in the game until mods are made to allow these things, but I'm sure those will be done really soon. But speaking of things done really soon, we have the game jam.
Yeah, it's so soon actually. So the 5th game jam is going to be running from April 22nd to May 6th, which means April 24th will be a smaller update, and then May 1st, my birthday, it's going to have no update at all. Although there still may be downtime because they're going to be celebrating my birthday probably.
Yeah. Hopefully the thing that they're inputting into the game for the downtime is going to be the new and improved report abuse interface that is hopefully coming soon. They don't have an actual date on this, but they say it is coming soon.
Would love if they actually like looked at the reports.
Yeah, so here's absolutely right. So they do have some mock-ups of what the updated version is going to look like, and it's hoping to address all 3 large problems. And the fact that it's awkward, it can be interrupted during combat, which is the biggest one in my opinion, and it cannot be opened while in another menu. And also there was some weird mobile stuff with keyboards. So hopefully this addresses all of that. Now it's going to be in your chat box, like your regular chat box. It'll just take up the whole thing. And you can do it during combat and it won't close. And you can type directly into the chat box whenever you are reporting someone to make it easier for mobile. So all of this stuff should make it, honestly, just a really big W for reporting people.
It looks really nice.
And if that wasn't enough, if you have killed someone in PvP, I wish they would also do it in reverse as well.
Okay.
But if you kill someone in PvP and you think they're sus or something, you can right-click their name after killing them. Like it shows up in the chat box.
I'm so glad you could right-click people, because I don't think you can.
No, you can't right-click anyone's name unless they type, unless they've chatted.
Yeah, so if you see someone with a weird username, you have to keep clicking them over and over, be like, okay, how do I spell this?
Yeah, like
and then just give up.
If their name is some heinous stuff and they're doing auto, like if you think they're doing like auto overhead switches with like auto hotkey or some plugin, then previously you wouldn't be able to report them unless they typed. So now you can by just right-clicking and reporting them after you've killed them. Nice. Like I said, hopefully they make it so.
PvP though, at least.
It has to be in PvP. Yeah. So like I said, hopefully they make it so you can do it in reverse. Like maybe someone kills you and they were doing some really sus stuff, then you can
like
right-click their name.
That PK'd me and then try to dox me.
Yeah, that being said, I could see that being abused, but honestly, this system could be abused by anyone. So I think they should just add that to the game as well, because that's probably even more common.
Yeah. They also put a new thing where if there's like legitimately real life law breaking content, it takes you to a form that you can fill out to report them there as well, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Report someone for just like threatening to kill someone, and you're like harassment. Like I don't know what to select.
Yeah. But that is it for this week. They removed the Easter event as well. Wall beasts were bugged and are no longer bugged.
They will now stay inside of the walls.
The new left-click option on the Polar and Jungle Eagles now works for completing the diary achievement tasks. They also fixed an issue with the collection log search on mobile. Justicar is now categorized correctly as metal armor by Ava's.
Just a call.
And resolved a crash issue observed inside the POH dungeon under specific circumstances.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah,
and the
that's
PvP loadout is Zerker this week.
Yeah, so we'll be rolling right into the very next blog, which is going to be Project Rebalance item and combat adjustments, which surely has not been changed yet.
Surely. Find out right now.
And so it turns out we were 100% right on.
It changed.
Yeah, so this blog that we just mentioned, Project Rebalance item and combat adjustments, was changed overnight. It is now Thursday, April 18th, and there were quite a few adjustments. We're going to go over the whole thing because they did adjust the original blog, and then we'll go over their feedback and methodology about the changes at the end afterwards.
Yeah.
So there was a ton of changes, and they start off by saying, anxiously eyeballing your bank. Big question mark. Wondering what changes Project Rebalance will bring to your favorite bits of gear? Well, wonder no longer, because we're here with a big blog that tells you everything you need to know. Before we move on, let's just like the last Project Rebalance blog, this one coincides with an open beta, so feel free to jump in the beta worlds and test all these things out, because you are going to want to. Assuming you like
I'm not
PVM
gonna want
content.
to be honest. I like PVM, but not enough to go to a beta world.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm lazy.
If you're one of those people eyeing your bank, you might want to.
Everything's already adjusted, man.
Yeah.
If you didn't sell your stuff by now, sorry. Like, there's no point anymore.
Yeah, as soon as the hints of item nerfs or buffs are on the horizon, things change. So, definitely way past due.
Yeah, sorry. All right, but going straight into the item adjustments. Before we get started, please note that the Tome of Water and Tome of Fire are going to be adjusted as mentioned in the previous Rebalance blog, which I think was like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, essentially, if you missed it, they're getting nerfed to 10% instead of 50% because that'll...
Remembered?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it.
I don't know. I just know that they're getting nerfed. I don't think they were 50. You know what? I'm not going to pretend I know. I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure they were 50, but
They're
now
nerfed.
Now they're much less. Anyways, that's to, like they said, coincide with the elemental weakness buff.
Yes.
So overall, I think they're going to be in the same spot or slightly better, but obviously just not as strong as they used to be.
Not strong individually.
Yeah.
But first, we'll look at perhaps the most anticipated or dreaded set changes, focusing primarily on mage gear progression. So, the Occult Necklace does an astronomical amount of lifting for magic's damage output. And to make a long story short, we think an item this powerful should set you back more than a mere 800,000 gold. It's so cheap. It's so easy to get.
It's an interesting thing to think.
Yeah, they gave the craziest example. So, they said, let's assume 2 players both have 99 mage and fancy bit of barrows. Player A equips an Occult Necklace for 800,000 gold and calls it a day. Player B equips the Ancestral Set, a Magus Ring, I was going to say maggot, Eternal Boots, and it turns on Augury, which sets them back a whopping 454 million gold. Player A still kills the Barrows brothers faster, though. That's how good this necklace is. So we hope you...
I agree. This is accurate. But I hate the way they frame this because it's not how good the necklace is. But rather, to me, when I read this the first time, I'm like, oh, that gear must be trash.
Well, the gear is going to get buffed, spoiler alert.
I know. I don't know. It's funny how they said that right away, and I was like, oh, that's a weird way of thinking about it.
Yeah. They do say, we hope you understand why the situation seems more than a little unfair, whatever your reasoning is for it, why you think it's unfair. So it's time to break the Occult Necklace's stranglehold on magic gear progression. Why do they say stranglehold instead of chokehold? I don't know. Is that a thing people say?
Yeah, stranglehold, yeah.
I was thinking, okay, I just want to share this real quick. I hung up my mom this week, and I was thinking about how she gets strangle and choke confused. So, like, once whenever we were, like, I was next to my nieces, and she was, like, 1-year-old and started choking on her food, my mom was like, she's strangling. And I'm like, that's not the same meaning.
Yeah.
So I didn't know stranglehold was a word.
Yeah, it's definitely a word, and that's, like a saying as well.
My grandpa was in the hospital, and she was like, yeah, he was strangling. And I was like, were you guys bringing him his victims? Like, who is he strangling?
Yeah, that's definitely something you should sort out.
Wait, I first corrected her literally 9 years ago, which I don't know why she keeps messing it up. But anyway, There are already too many occult necklaces out there for us to make them less common. Making them harder to get will just punish iron players who have had to climb all the way in 93 Slayer for this unlock. So instead of that, they want to make it that other gear upgrades become like more exciting. They're going to to kill two birds with one stone.
Today, Junior.
To kill two birds with one stone by redistributing the occult necklace's stats around other mage gear. Note that unless explicitly stated, buffs to robes only apply to the helmet, body, and leg slot. I don't know how some of them maybe some vambrances, I guess. I don't know, like blood bark.
Yeah, so the bark sets as well as a few other sets have more than just the 3, but they're only ever going to be buffing and adding percent damage to the hat, body, and legs of any of these sets.
Cool. Would you like to take us through the list, Rover?
Sure. This list is at
Expansive.
least twice as long as it was previously.
I mean, which is a good thing because
Yes.
previously it was missing a lot.
Yes. So the occult necklace is being nerfed, obviously, by a ton from 10% to 4% damage increase. All of these percent increases are going to be in percents and are going to be increases.
So you could just say from like 2 to 3, 0 to 1. You don't
Yes,
specify.
and this is going to be per piece. So you could wear a piece of Ancestral, a piece of Infinity, and a piece of Dagonite and get separate bonuses from each of them. It's not like the set bonus like Obsidian or something.
Okay.
So Ancestral pieces will give you 3% damage per piece. Virtus robes, 2. Infinity robes, 1. Dagonite, Third Age, Arums, Blue Moon, Elder Chaos, Bloodbark will all give you 1% per piece. Augury is getting a big, gigantic buff. This has been one of the most underwhelming prayers in my opinion. So now it is 4% magic damage up from 0.
How is that ever a thing? It's the best in slot mage spell or mage prayer.
Yeah. Crazy. It was not very good before.
Yeah.
They also had a side note saying that Tumikin Shadow does not multiply accuracy or damage from these things. So it'll remain at 4% rather than going to 12% while using the Shadow. So the Shadow's unaffected by all of these changes except for the armor, obviously.
Yeah.
So
That's increase some random items like prayers and other things. So Mystic Might is up to 2%, Mystic Lore 1%, and this is all, of course, magic damage still. Eternal Boots 0 to 2%. That's a big one. I don't know. These boots were totally useless before.
yeah, those boots suck.
Ancient Wyvern Shield 2%, Malediction Ward 2%, Arcane Spirit Shield 3%. Eternal Boots are listed twice for some reason. Mage's Book 2%. Seer's Ring and the Imbued version are going up 0.5%.
Huge.
And Elite Void Mage Set bonus is going up from 2.5 to 5%.
That's actually huge.
Yeah. A lot of numbers, but I mean, hopefully that was simple enough.
Yeah, in
and
general,
we'll link it anyway.
In general, you can expect pretty much all the pieces that you're used to using, except for Mystics, which is the easiest set to get, are all getting damage percent buffs.
Which is huge because if you read this before they updated it, they were nerfing some stuff and basically only buffing Ancestral.
Yeah.
It was really weird. So
Yeah.
I like this a lot more.
Like I said, we'll go over the methodology, but essentially it was just that they were making even the best set being Ancestrals even stronger for some reason, and then pretty
Everything's
much
weaker.
everything else was taking an L.
Yeah.
So now this is much more even across the board. You can expect buffs all the way from, even Mystics technically, because you're going to have the base Mystic Might and Mystic Lore buffs.
Oh, for the prayers.
For the prayers.
Yeah.
So it should be a pretty smooth sailing ride, and you'll get the extra buff for like early things like Seer's Ring or Elite Void.
Yeah, they're making the mage just like all around so much better in my opinion.
Yeah. They do have a ton of rationale on this, like 4 or 5 paragraphs, but this is did they even update this part?
I think they did. Yeah.
Okay.
So, shall we?
Yeah, so they I'll try to summarize it because they do kind of like talk at lengths about this.
Just a little bit of a summary.
And it is kind of really weird and doesn't make sense. But anyways,
Okay.
they say that these changes bring the necklace's power a little more in line with its obtainability so that players can feel themselves getting stronger as they unlock other gear. Additionally, Augury now has a greater offensive power, increases the value of the Arcane Prayer Scroll. We also see new utility for robe sets, which are currently best suited for accounts with defense limitations. We want to see Aram's robe sit in a unique. Oh, this is the funny part that they didn't change.
Oh, this is the old one.
The very first paragraph, obviously, is I think. No, actually, I don't think they changed any of this.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they just happen to also still be true, the augury thing.
Yeah, the augury thing is still true.
Okay, so
So
raise this outdated thing.
yeah, so this is really funny because they were saying just that, like some of the robe sets are best suited for accounts with defense limitations, and then they say we want to see Aram's robes sit in a unique, tankier battle mage niche with defense that outshines other options in exchange for slightly less offensive potential.
Yeah, they weren't. They think they did they nerf it or they just didn't buff it originally?
They didn't change it at all.
Yeah, so Aram's has now been changed. Its magic damage has gone up to 1%.
Yeah,
Because everyone was like, Aram's is gonna suck.
previously it was unchanged and people were making
Not happy.
a ton of memes. They were actually really funny.
I was surprised how upset people were about that.
Well, it's
But so I'm
because
non-iron and I'm later game, so
it's funny because like it's so that like is such a like obscenely out of touch line to type and then hit enter and then press OK as for publishing. That's like, have you played this game? That is crazy that you said that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so a lot of people were making jokes like, "All right, just got a Rune Dragon's task, and it's them equipped with like this and like a whip or something."
Stupid.
like, what are you talking about?
There's some places. Where is it? Oh, at Corp, I wear Arams for the defense.
Huge, dude.
Yeah,
There you
it's
go.
massive.
Yeah, it's so funny. For anyone that like isn't super familiar with defenses, unless you have like a humongously insurmountably high number of defense, it's practically useless most of the time. Like there
Oh,
are advantages, obviously, like you using the Aram's top, or people using Bandos and Ancestral at the same time at like chambers to save on like switches and stuff like that. There are advantages to defense, but to say something is a tanky battle mage when mage is like notoriously extremely like weak most of the time as far as defenses go is kind of like laughable. Like the only good defensive set in the whole game is Justicar, which gives you hundreds and hundreds of defense.
yeah.
So
It's true. Whenever people wear their mage gear, they always say that they're wearing tissue paper and stuff like that.
yeah,
Anyway, they do say though that we're committed to bringing the occult necklace down a notch, but remember that it will still remain the best in slot necklace for mage setups and will likely remain affordable.
yep.
We'll
And
see how that
just
is.
before that, they did mention that.
I don't know if this is even gonna be true though.
No, it is.
Okay.
They say we'd like to also hear about other bits of gear that deserve a little bit of a boost, and we can even work in increments of 0.5% if that helps. And they actually said this before they did all of the changes, which included several 0.5 increases. So at least they did keep to their word there because, like I said, this is written before their feedback.
Yeah, that's good. Moving on to the Soul Reaper axe, I don't think that this had any changes with the feedback.
No, it
No.
didn't.
Okay, so this is all accurate, thankfully.
At least as far as I know. I think they did have some words about it, but
No, it was Void Waker is what I'm thinking of.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay,
as well.
yeah.
So the Nightmare Axe actually got a really nice buff. I think it's kind of being slept on as far as like the feedback
The
goes.
Nightmare axe? Do you
No,
mean Soul Reaper?
The Soul, yeah.
I said Nightmare. I was like, what's the
Oh, did
Nightmare
I? Yeah,
axe?
sorry. The Soul Reaper Axe.
There's a lot of Nightmare stuff soon. You'll get it. But anyway, moving swiftly onto this hard-hitting slash weapon, capable of dishing out some serious damage if you're willing to go through the frustrating process of bringing out its true potential. We don't plan to increase its damage directly, but here's what we'll do instead. Stacks will no longer be lost instantly upon switching weapon. Stacks will start decrementing after 12 seconds, 20 ticks, without attacking, up from 10 ticks. When stacks naturally degrade, they'll heal you the damage you took while building them stacks up. Effectively, we're making stacks easier to maintain and removing the overly punishing stack drain when switching weapons. This does indirectly buff the Soul Reaper's damage output, but it means you'll no longer run out of stacks while waiting during intermission phases in some boss fights, such as Versic transitioning from part 2 to 3. We've seen some more suggestions suggesting the Soul Reaper axe. Right now, our focus is on improving its usability and ensuring it doesn't lose power every time you switch gear. I've
Yeah.
never used it. I know people are happy about this. At least people in my chat.
Yeah, it didn't get a direct buff, but I mean, this is a
It is a buff.
very strong buff. Like, just the first line that you can swap without dropping stacks immediately is really important because that means that you can swap and spec for up to 12 seconds and then swap back and you would still, have all of your stacks.
True.
So that's really crazy.
I've never used a Soul Reaper. I want to use one.
Yeah. That's really strong. Also, yeah, I mean, it's not they increased the decrement time by double, which
Yeah.
that's not a small amount. So now you have 12 seconds like I said. And then also they made it so there's actually kind of really no downside to the axe besides the wind up time on the damage because if
Hmm.
anyone doesn't know, you build up damage and while you build up damage, you lose 40 health over the amount of time.
So you could still die. You're risking it a little bit, but
Yeah, you're still risking it, but before you would just lose that health. But now, if you start losing stacks, then you'll actually get that health back,
it's kind of cool.
which is, yeah, really, really cool.
I'm surprised people don't think that's too good, though.
I don't think it's too good. I just think it's like kind of usable
Yeah.
now.
Fair. Moving
Speaking
on.
of, yeah, speaking of usable,
Yeah.
we have the Elder Maul. So obviously, this is one of the mega giga rares from Chambers, and usually people are really sad when they see it, but now they might not be because
Less sad. You still hope it's a Tebow, obviously.
yeah, definitely, obviously, wish that would be the case, but maybe you'll be less sad, and maybe you'll actually bring it to places other than wherever people bring this.
PKing?
Sure.
I have no idea. I've never used one.
Yeah, so it's a hard-hitting, slow weapon, and it's hard to bring a slow, hard-hitting weapon in line with other main hand options because our combat system rewards fast 5-tick weapons like the Scythe or the Twisted Bow.
Those aren't even fast.
Yeah. But even slower is a 6-tick weapon and it requires a max hit that would level half of Varrock for it to be in line. So they kind of can't do that.
Accurate, though.
What makes the Eldermont great is the feeling of bringing this behemoth weapon down on an opponent and softening them up for future blows while they're still reeling from the impact, or at least that's kind of what they would hope. So originally they talked about shaving off a little bit of defense for each swing, but struggling to get to a place where it wasn't either totally busted or outperformed by the Dragon Warhammer. Instead, we're giving a special attack worth 50% of its spec energy, which hits with plus 25% increased accuracy and reduces your target's defense by 35% on a successful hit.
What does this mean for us, Robert?
This makes it a better defense reduction option than the Dragon Warhammer, and also frees up an inventory slot if you were using two-handed weapons anyways and don't want to bring the Avernic just for the Warhammer. So
Yeah, there's a little bit of spiciness here because people it seems like they don't want to not use the Dragon Warhammer. I get that it is kind of devaluing the Avernic. That one I think is fair.
I guess.
I think that, I like that it's replacing the Dragon Warhammer as stronger because it's a mega rare from a raid. Whereas Dragon Warhammer, you're just killing shamans.
Yeah, it always felt weird, I think, to everyone that the Elder Maul didn't really have a place in, like, practically
Yeah, they were
every
talking
meta.
about doing it for Tecton and stuff, but I don't remember if they did much.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I think there was a vote on it. I don't remember exactly what the vote was, but there was, like, different ways that it could affect Tecton and stuff like that, but apparently they couldn't get it adjusted correctly, so now it's just a spec weapon, which
Yeah.
is better than what it used to be, which was nothing.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be going up in value, and I will actually keep it if I get one now.
Yeah. And for anyone, we're going to go over this. I actually don't even know if we need to go over it too much, but the only change they made after the feedback is they made it so the spec hits with 25% increased accuracy. All
Which
this
it
other
does say
stuff.
on here anyway.
Yeah, all this other stuff was already here.
Moving on to the Inquisitor's Armor and Mace. The Inquisitor's Armor set and Mace are a Crush Focus set dropped by Fasani's Nightmare and Regular Nightmare. Each piece of the armor set boosts your damage and accuracy by 0.5% when equipped.
And your magic.
I know, what? With an additional 1% for the full set, totaling a plus 2.5% increase in both damage and accuracy. You generally see people using this set with the Scythe Averter against enemies weak to crush, trading off low defense for hefty damage output. But where's the mace?
No one
No one
knows.
knows.
It's probably still sitting in the G because it's expensive as hell.
Yeah, so while the mace is a strong weapon, it's staggeringly expensive at more than 275 million gold. I don't know if it's gone up since they published this too. It might have.
It has.
Yeah, of course it has.
Yeah.
And its damage output simply doesn't make up for the cost. We're going to talk about soon about nightmare drop rates, but just know they're thinking about while using the Inquisitor's mace, Inquisitor's armor pieces provide a 2.5% bonus to accuracy and damage. In a full set with the mace, the total bonuses increase from the current 2.5 to plus 7.5% total damage accuracy. So, actual incentives to use your mace. There's something, they say that's a nice stepping stone between Abyssal Bludgeon and the Scythe Averter.
Yeah.
You're not sold? I'm sold. I already want one anyway because it's a good crush weapon. I don't remember where I need to crush recently, but somewhere.
Yeah, so they say that the Inquisitor's armor piece provides 2.5% per piece, or is it just that's it?
No, the pieces are 2.5. Well, if you equip the full set with the mace, it's 7.5% added damage and accuracy.
Okay, well
That's what you need to know.
they have more. They go over this more, and we'll talk about it more then. But I'm not super happy with this.
Okay.
Saying similarly, I'll talk about it once we go over the other stuff as well.
Gotcha.
And similarly with the Voidwaker, I'm also kind of not on board with the changes as well.
All right, read them to us.
So when we first said this crazily consistent special attack weapon was on the table for Project Rebalance, we said we wanted to tweak it because completely bypassing accuracy checks in combat could be a limiter. Okay, could be a limiter for future spec DPS weapons.
It was too good. That's a very long way of saying it might be too good and it will affect later games.
Yeah, I immediately don't like this because if you look at their language, they actually don't know what they're talking about, and they even tell you they don't know what they're talking about.
How?
Because they say that bypassing accuracy checks in combat could become a limiter for future specs. So they don't even have content that they're talking about directly. They just are scared that this might be a problem in the future and they want to remove it now.
I mean, you think of like that, I'm thinking better safe than sorry.
This is, for me, the same as like, okay, obviously this is going to be a crazy
Here
reference.
we go.
But
So there's roadkill, right? And Jagex is making you eat it. And all the while they're stabbing you with the Voidwaker.
yeah, I was like, no.
What's your comparison?
My comparison would be like, just reacting to something that might be a problem, but going over the top. Like, oh, I heard there was gunshots in the next town over, so you redid all your windows with bulletproof glass. Like, all right, sure, that it might be a problem,
They're
but like,
overreacting.
was this necessary?
Yeah.
Probably not. Because
Okay.
it doesn't seem like they're all like, oh, we're coming out with a new boss, and this limited it directly. I'd have been like, okay.
They just think it probably will someday, eventually, soon TM.
Yeah, maybe eventually. I don't know. I mean, they're not the best at designing bosses, so we'll see.
The proposal.
Yes, our proposal looks like this. So they're adjusting the Voidwaker's spec so that it no longer ignores accuracy, but instead rolls with a plus 400%. For all the smooth brains, that's 5 times, in other words.
Thank you, because I wouldn't have actually known that. Straight up.
Increased accuracy and rolls against your target slash or magic defense, depending on which is lower.
Did I say I have a smooth brain? Is that what I implied by saying that?
No.
I think, okay, it's fine. Anyway.
That was like kind of a 2-for-1.
Yeah, it was like a self-burn.
Yeah. I don't know why you said that.
Because I genuinely didn't know 400% is the same as 5 times.
Oh.
Because I'm an idiot.
Well, yeah, it's just 4 plus the 1 original.
Well, I would have just thought it was 4 times because
Okay.
it's 4 and 4. Anyway.
True. All right. I think they are being a little facetious by adding that.
They're doing it to fight me.
No, I think they're doing it to make it seem like it's more than it is, but it's really not that much. Anyways, also that reminded me of a reference for, this is mostly because Fallout, the new series, a lot of people are liking it.
It was really good.
But it's funny because there's like ghouls in the show and in the game, and the ghouls are essentially like people or ex-people, but they've been like, I don't know if they've been like irradiated or whatever, but all their skin's jacked up.
Yeah.
And they look like burn victims, but 9x.
Yeah, but
And
simplified versions.
they always have crazy voices too, and they're all like, "Oh, what do you want? Smooth skin." And that's how they refer to like other
Wait,
people.
that's so funny. I
Yeah.
like that.
Anyways, though, this means that the spec attack will still roll with triple accuracy and picks the lowest. Okay, this needs to be updated, so it's not triple accuracy anymore. It's 4 times accuracy. Originally, it was triple, and picks the lowest of the two values, so you always have the best odds of hitting. It fits nicely with the Voidwaker's melee but magic identity. It also keeps it an incredibly consistent choice in both PvM and PvP scenarios, which is not true, but okay, without being so consistent that it bypasses one of our main balancing levers. All right, cool. So that
Not
is,
levers.
I think it's tomato, right?
I don't know. You just sounded silly. Can you imagine if in Emperor's New Groove she was like wrong lever, Kronk? Like that sounds kind of goofy.
Oh, well, I think, isn't that how the English people say it?
I don't know. They'd be saying all kinds of things. They're like
Yeah.
herb lore,
I mean, that's probably how it'd sound if
Tuesday,
one of the mods was saying it.
lever,
Yeah,
maybe.
who knows?
Anyway, moving on to the Ancient God Sword. The Zerosian spin on the classic melee weapon is designed from the ground up for PvP, although it does see use in PvM, especially against slash weak monsters where long trips are preferred. It's all about outlasting your opponent while packing a punch. Its special attack, Blood Sacrifice, increases your max hit by 10% and upon a successful hit, marks your target. If they don't move at least 5 tiles away after 8 ticks, they'll take 25 mage damage and you'll heal for the same amount of hit points. I don't think I realized what it even did, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of people won't use this for PvM, so
Whenever I was thinking about so I could stay longer at Scurrius in my head, I was like, this could be good for the rat. But what if he goes to his cheese?
yeah, definitely not good for PvM.
If your PvP opponent is frozen and you hit them for even a measly 1 damage, you'll ultimately wind up with a 50 hit point differential. The damage isn't mitigated by Protect from Mage or Melee, so there's actually very little your opponent can do about that. Is that fun? Is what they ask. The answer is probably not. To even the odds, we want to reduce the healing provided in PvP without reducing the God Sword's already limited utility in PvM scenarios. So healing from successful blood sacrifice now heals for 15% of the target's maximum hit point, up from a 25 hit point cap. This still leads to a 40 hit point differential in PvP, but it stops fights stretching out without counterplay, even when your opponent is playing perfectly. The Ancient God Sword is basically unchanged in PvM, except in the rare case of fighting low hit point targets, and it isn't really designed for such encounters anyway. So,
Yeah.
I have no thoughts on that one. Seems fine.
I only have like a very small thought, and mostly like why is this happening for PvM at all? Like,
It's just niche reasons that people want to do it. Like, it's not common. They even
well,
say, like, it's basically unchanged because it's rare to use it.
yeah, that's my point. Why change it at all? Like,
Yeah.
just have it do something different in PvP. Like, that's
Maybe
not.
it's harder to program to get to work that way.
I doubt it because this is still very different from each other. But
True.
anyways, that's the only thing that doesn't make sense to me. There's already precedent that there's many things that work differently in PvP. Just make this one of them.
Okay.
Like, you don't need to be weird about it.
Moving on to some other aspects of PvM content, such as drop rates. This is a big one, big kind of controversial one.
Yeah, I think we'll combine these two just so that because they're the only two things that talk about drop rates.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly go over the Dragon Warhammer because it's getting changed from 1 out of 5,000 to 1 out of 3,000. It's one of the longest grinds in the game, or drop rate wise for items that you're going to want to get.
So I don't know if this number is completely correct, but if you go the drop rate on something, if you get 5,000 KC at Shamans, I'm pretty sure you actually, like, only 68% of people actually get the drop within the drop rate. So that's not too crazy when you think of it like that. Because some people are like, this is going to make it way more common. It's like people have gone like 20,000 without getting a Dragon Warhammer.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still going to be really rare, 1 out
Mm-hmm.
of 3,000. So I personally don't have a problem with any of the drop rates being much lower than they are.
This one I think is nice just because I think that Dragon Warhammer, I mean, it really also solidifies that's more mid-game and Elder Maul will be end-game because it's easier to get and then Elder Maul will also be better. So
Yeah,
it's
sure.
a nice like separation in my mind.
Yeah, because I mean, those would make sense. I mean, it's not like it's hard to get, which makes it weird because the BGS is arguably more difficult to get, even though it's not as good. But
Mm-hmm.
the Dragon Warhammer just takes forever to get. So I don't know. It's kind of in a weird spot, but I'm in favor of it being easier to get.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of that.
Okay.
The next thing is going to be the Nightmare and Fosani's Nightmare. Excuse me. So they are essentially reducing the drop rate on a lot of the items and potentially even adding a
Dupe protection.
dupe protection system.
So here's the specifics. You want to go over them or me?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
So the Nightmare, the Inquisitor. This is for specifically the Nightmare. That's why I introduced it that way.
Yes.
The Inquisitor pieces plus the Nightmare staff loot table has a 1 in 90 chance to roll, improving it from 1 in 120. The Nightmare Orb loot table has a 1 in 450 chance to roll, improving it from 1 in 600. Still not very
Isn't there
good.
like 3 orbs?
Yes, there is.
You have to stay there to greenlog this boss.
Many months
Oh my god.
at 8 hours a day.
Jesus.
Fasani's Nightmare. So the Inquisitor pieces plus the Nightmare staff is 1 out of 50 to roll, improved from 1 out of 200. And the Nightmare Orb is 1 out of 720, down from 1 out of 960.
Wow.
And the Inquisitor pieces, specifically not the orbs or the weapons, have dupe protection, so players don't repeatedly obtain the same piece of armor.
Yeah, we will talk more about that in the feedback, the dupe protection aspects.
Yeah, also, this is incredibly annoying because it seems like whoever wrote this, yet again, cannot do math.
Why?
Because they say, in short, all Nightmare uniques are being made 50% more common. My brother in Christ, do you not know what 50% is?
I'm wondering if I do now.
Yo, none of these are even remotely close to 50%.
Could that be like a number that they put yesterday before the update changed?
Even
Maybe
if
it's half updated?
even if they did, it wasn't close to 50% because they would need to do it by much more for it to be 50%.
Okay.
Because yeah, and it's funny because someone else, I saw this the first time. I'm like, okay, this doesn't really look like 50%, and then people brought it up and they're like, yo, why aren't more people bringing up that it's not 50%?
This math is wrong.
It's only 33%.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like this is either a typo or this person can't do math or like both.
Yeah.
So it's not even close to 50%.
It's kind of just a weird little Easter egg in this post.
Yeah, like it's very far. Like you can almost double the number and be closer to their estimate.
It's actually kind of funny.
Crazy. But yeah, overall I like things dropping more often. This boss still takes pretty much an infinite amount of time to greenlog, so
I think I'm okay with the drop rates changing. At some places, I don't want stuff to become too common, but Nightmare does have like incredibly long KCs, which is why I feel like okay about it.
yeah. I have something to put this into reference.
Sure.
And by me, I mean whoever did all of these.
Reddit.
Yeah, someone on Reddit that did all of these simulations. I forgot to get their name yet again. But
Who
anyways,
reads them?
they know who they're. Shout out to them. So they ran 100,000 simulations, which apparently was fact checked by another user.
Oh,
So hopefully these are fairly accurate. But anyways, they have the general means, mediums, minimums, and maximums, which I'll not go over all of them,
yeah, please.
for the amount of hours required to get the pieces. So originally, in order to get the full Inquisitor plus the mace from Fosani's Nightmare, was 2,700 hours.
On average?
That was the mean.
Oh,
2,700 hours.
yikes.
And with the new and improved drop rates plus dupe protection, it will still be. It's funny, if you just go for the full Inquisitor without the mace, it's 600 hours, which is actually much more manageable.
Oh, the mace is what makes it crazy.
From 2,700 to 600 for full Inquisitor.
Okay.
If you add the mace, that adds pretty much a little over 1,000 hours.
1,600?
Yeah, it's 1,690
Oh my goodness.
for the full set plus the mace. It is
So
going to
he
be
did the spoon.
yeah. So it's definitely a buff. Obviously, the difference between getting a full set of Inquis used to be 1,800, and with this new system would be 600, and we're talking in hours. So this is much. I think this is actually from Nightmare, the one that has the higher drop chance.
Yeah.
which does take much longer, but
Hmm.
you have to do it in a group usually.
If you do it in solo, that could be like 15, 20-minute KCs.
Yeah, and this is assuming that you have, I mean, if you're doing it efficiently, you have another person bringing or another account bringing you supplies. So I don't know exactly what their setup was for this simulation or stuff like that. But, anyways, originally the drop rate was 1,800 hours,
Hmm.
and the new drop rate is 600 hours for full Inquisitor. So that's one third as much time. So it's definitely a big increase. But
That's not 50% more common at all.
yeah, it's still
Minute.
it's still a crazy grind. I mean, if you're going for the mace, which is the thing that they're really upgrading a lot
Mhm.
and going for here, that's 1,700 hours if you want to grind for the set and the mace. Obviously, we're looking at irons here,
Yeah. It
but
was down a lot. It just happened to be even crazier.
yeah, it's still many days continuously at 8 hours a day for still many weeks at a time.
For
Um,
the rest of your life.
yeah, it's what it essentially would feel like the rest of your life. So unfortunate, but it's still better, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, I saw people saying that they didn't want the drop rates to change at all. Like they wanted it to still be like really hard. So
Oh, those people
it
are
can still be
crazy.
really hard.
Yeah, those people are definitely crazy. Um, but yeah, overall, those are the changes for the drop rates. I like them. I just think Nightmare should be way higher.
Even better.
Yeah,
I
even
don't know.
better.
I'm
They
okay with this
they
right
should actually be 50% or more.
Dang. Okay. Moving on though, and remember we'll talk about that again once we get to the feedback. But minimum hit adjustments. For those of you not in the know, old school's combat works a bit like Dungeons and Dragons.
It's stupid.
You roll once to hit, and then you roll again to see how much damage you do. In the current system, it's possible to hit and then roll 0
It's
damage.
so stupid.
This is especially punishing early in the game where players have a lower max hit overall. If a low level player can only hit 1 damage, there's a 50-50 chance they'll deal 0 instead. Even in late game when players are significantly more powerful, the potential to roll 0 is always looming, and anyone who's ever whiffed a Dragon Warhammer special attack knows exactly how frustrating it can be. Previously, we proposed that any successful hit should guarantee at least 1 damage, but we still feel like there are further changes required. The thing is, increasing either the minimum or maximum by X will increase the average hit by X over 2. Is that how I would say that? X divided by 2?
Yeah, X divided by 2.
Yeah. We're actually increasing the damage output of every single weapon in the game, and this change would be disproportionately impactful for multi-weapons like the Scythe. As a result, our changes are focused on improving the feel of early combat and improving the readability of combat in late game scenarios. So on hit, damage rolls of a 0 are clamped up to a 1. That means that DPS isn't significantly changed aside from the extremely early stages of the game, which should feel much better.
Yeah. Originally, before the feedback, they actually reduced all of the max hits in the game by 1.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, they reduced all of them by 1 and increased the minimum by 1.
Yeah, this makes more sense. Just
And
if it's a successful hit, it's a 1.
yeah, people are like, yo, for things like any multi hit weapon, that sucks.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like the scythe, obviously take an L there and stuff like that. So, they're like, this is the worst of all the changes. And so, they're like, okay, for any nerds out there, for instance, if your max hit is 4, the dice that you roll once you've hit a successful hit will be, instead of being 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, will be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have
Yes.
the same amount of
They actually say
numbers.
that in the feedback.
Yeah, you have the same amount of numbers you have to roll through. So there's still 4 numbers to roll through, which is significant. You're like, well, why isn't it just 1, 2, 3? Because that's a 33% chance of hitting any of the numbers. You still want it to be 25%, so that's why it's still 1, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. We're also conscious that some account builds may be disproportionately impacted by this change. So in response, we're looking to introduce items, especially for these players, which will let them continue on as they always have.
Nah, dude.
Very
You made
specific
the
builds
account.
must be.
You made the
Shut
account.
up.
Anyways, they have some early game combat prayers.
Mm-hmm.
In other early game news, we'll be making changes to Thick Skin, Burst of Strength, Clarity of Thought, Sharp Eyes, and Mystic Will. They may look like the names that you came up with for your band. You always wanted to start in high school, but they're actually
Clarity of thought.
the
So
first,
deep.
the first tier of prayer unlocks that no one uses.
Wait, which one are you? I'm definitely clarity of thought.
Burst of Strength.
No. Yeah, no, you are.
Yeah.
Actually, that works.
So they have some plans that hopefully make them not terrible, and that's essentially just making it so their prayer drain is very, very low.
Yeah.
So they're making it so that Thick Skin, Burst of Strength, Clarity of Thought, Sharp Eye, and Mystic Will are getting reduced from 5 points per minute, 5 prayer points per minute, or 5 points per minute to 1 point per minute. And we're talking
Yeah.
about prayer here.
Yes. You were
And
correct when you said prayer point, and then you were like, no, no, no.
I was getting wrapped up with the points per minute thing. And also, they're making it so Sharp Eye and Burst of Strength, the one that increases your ranged and melee strength respectively, are now respectively making it so that your strength levels will go up by 1
They're making it plus 1
at
better.
a minimum. So for anyone that doesn't know,
Only if they're lower than 20, though, by the way.
yeah, so it's essentially just at a minimum. So if your ranged or your strength were below 20, these prayers would actually do literally nothing. Like they wouldn't increase your strength or your range by any amount because both of those things had to be at least 20 for the math to work out to give you 1 single point in either. Not an extra max hit or anything, just a single ranged point or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So a range strength point. So now essentially just a minimum of +1 range or melee strength.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, pretty easy. And also the drain is like practically 0 now. So
The drain thing change is really nice because, like, in the past, if you're at like 12 health or something, or 12 prayer, I think there's something that you could use at 12. Like, you'd be like trying to prayer flick like as carefully as you can because you're gonna run out of prayer in like 5 seconds, and
Yeah.
you're barely doing anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Anyway, so autocast delay. We've already spoken about this change when you asked us about it in the NPC Defense change blog, so this should not catch anyone off guard. Essentially, when selecting the autocast option on a staff and then clicking NPC, there's a 1 tick delay before your attack actually fires. It's very annoying, and it makes it feel a little bit clunky. Also, it reduces your damage in scenarios where you're reducing and restoring your mage level or switching into a mage setup. Now that we're introducing elemental weaknesses, we want spell-based magic to feel nice and smooth, so we are removing this delay. Should have removed this delay whenever they introduced autocast spells into the game.
They should have added another line saying that, and also we're not changing the drop rate of the best in slot spell-based elemental weakness prepared item being Nightmare Staff. It's still a 1,600-hour grind, so good luck. That's what they should have said.
Anyway.
They also make it so that we talked about this the other week. People were complaining that it's really tough to solo hard mode Tob in phase 2 of Verzik specifically.
Is it hard, regular? Oh, normal and hard mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, when 2 big red ticks spawn during Verzik phase 2, it's pretty much impossible to kill the second one.
No one calls them ticks.
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible to kill the second one as a solo player. So it was really, really tough to deal with. But I don't actually even know how people would deal with it. But apparently,
I don't know if they kill them. I just run away.
Yeah, maybe they'll just like sit there and like have to tick eat them or something like that.
You just wait till they come next to you and then step 2 away when they're about to explode.
But even when there's 2 of them?
If there's 2 of them, there's a chance they could sandwich you.
Yeah.
Which I've died a lot of times in that way.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, if you are a solo player, obviously this affects very, very few people, then now...
They do say this is also going to be a thing if you are the last person alive during the end of phase 1.
Yeah, I guess so. So if you're trying to clutch it for your team and everyone's dead, or you're just a solo player, then now it'll take a look at how many people are alive and only spawn 1 if there's only 1 player alive.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Make it a little bit easier.
Some TOA changes for Path of Ampican and Baba. They say there's no escaping the dreaded monkey room. Thankfully, your prayers to the Menifite Pantheon have been answered. So they increased the hit point of all style-based enemies inside the Path of Ampican. These enemies will now always take maximum damage when attacked with the opposing combat style. So assuming you're in a solo raid, this is how the hit point and max hits will shake out. The Baboon Brawler, 25 hit points and 30 hit points, but it's always hit by mage. Basically, they're all always hit by their opposite. I don't want to I feel like those
Yeah.
numbers might be kind of
Yeah,
confusing.
everyone already knows the combat triangle in this game, so just hit them with the opposite that they're weak to,
And
and
it
it'll
will
always be
change.
max.
It's so frustrating in the past, like to sit there and just keep hitting like zeros. It's like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. They also nerf Baba.
Yeah. So at the end of the Path of Ambican awaits Baba and her extremely potent melee attack. So while we're here, we want to make a change anyway. Baba now only hits for 25% of damage through Protect from Melee, down from 33%. This reduces the damage by around 24%. And this should prevent players losing so much DPS to Red Xing, although those looking to save supplies will find it isn't removed entirely. And that's it for the updates, but we do have all the feedback stuff to go through. I don't think we're going to go through in too much detail because we're mostly going
Yeah.
to go over their reasoning for stuff, I think.
Yeah, we covered all the actual numbers that matter, so we're just going to go over some reasoning if we didn't cover it initially. Like I said, their feedback for the maximum hit changes was because things like D-Claws or the Scythe were a lot worse off if you reduce the max hit, so they made it so they increased the minimum hit. Their Void Waker special attack. So this is one of the ones that I didn't like. So the Void Waker's proposed special attack leaves it with barely any use cases compared to the Zarak crossbow or the D-Claws. So that's when they changed it from plus 200% to plus 400%, leaving it in the same exact position that it was before, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, they say this means that the Voidwaker remains an extremely accurate weapon and retains more of its current use cases, not changing much. But it also allows us to design NPCs in the future that might feature extremely high slash defense and open the door for DPS special attacks that focus on other melee styles like stab or crush. They really didn't change much on it, essentially
Yeah,
what they're saying.
it's honestly, I think this is kind of like a joke and like not a real problem in the game. They even say themselves it's not a real problem in the game, so I don't know why they're
Yet.
nerfing it.
Yeah.
Also, it was only used in like literally less than a handful of PVM situations, so I
I
don't
just don't
know.
use it the core in TOA. I
Yeah,
don't know where
it's
else.
very niche uses, so I don't know why this is like blocking them so much. And for instance, now obviously it used to be 100% hit chance, but for like the core, I think I don't have it pulled up here, but people did the math on what the chances of it hitting with a spec. I think with the 200%, it was like 70% chance,
Mm-hmm.
and now with the 400%, it's like an 80% chance. It's still not very high.
80% is pretty high.
It used to be 100.
It is down. It's fair.
It used to be 100.
True.
Yeah, so putting it into competition with things like the D claws, you're pretty much. I don't see you bringing this.
Yeah.
So
This one is like one of the more controversial. So the Nightmare loot table. The feedback was the time to complete Nightmare Fasani's Nightmare, particularly the Inquisitor's armor set, is still extremely long even after the changes. And that was feedback from yesterday when it was even worse than it is now. So for this one, they wanted to propose rolling out the dupe protection to Inquisitor's armor pieces only. There are pros and cons to dupe protection systems, and we want to be clear that this is something we'll explore on extremely case-by-case basis and not something we're looking to roll out to everything in the game, because that would be really weird. That'd be really weird.
yeah, that would suck.
So for pros, the time to complete for collection loggers and irons goes down, but the number of uniques entering the game remains unchanged and doesn't adversely impact the economy for mains. Systems like this allow us to take stuff that's really rare and worth getting excited about without making a complete armor set or log slot feel like a months long slog. The primary con is that systems like this and other places fundamentally change how players interact with their grinds. For example, if at Garage Door you had dupe protection for all three armor pieces, would you still try making money there if you knew your next piece was due to be Bando's boots? Systems like this can disincentivize players to engage with content as moneymakers or on a more Iron-esque journey if the next unique is already known. In the case of the Inquisitor armor set, the pieces maintain a similar value to each other for the time being, and we feel this has the most direct applications of Nightmare's uniques, so we'd be willing to experiment this while still leaving the orbs as exceptionally rare flex items. So the orbs will not be getting dupe protection. Let that be known. I don't think that they should.
This is crazy.
Okay, what's crazy?
Yeah, so
Or should we read the next part too before we're playing? Or that's just more about the.
Inquisitor's Mason armor feedback. This is just on the DPS
Okay,
of
never
it,
mind. So
not the drop rate of it. So
what is crazy, Robert?
what's crazy is that they even specify in their little thesis here that dupe protection isn't good. I don't think anyone thinks it's good unless you're like haven't really thought about it, which is fine because
Liked it for Peerless Moons.
they said it themselves. Why would you
Come back.
grind for a certain piece knowing it's going to be a piece you don't want?
Yeah.
That still exists. So I don't know why they don't just do the obvious thing and increase the drop rate,
I don't know.
which is what they're doing in like a weird side. They're doing it and they're doing this, which is like just a weird sideways move that is increasing the drop rate. So why not just increase the drop rate?
I honestly don't know how I feel about this one in general. I've seen so many different takes on it. I don't know how I feel yet.
It's so
But
weird.
we know how you feel about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, because they even said themselves the orbs are a 1 out of 400 chance to get. Even after them buffing it, it's still a 1 out of 400 chance to get on Nightmare, the long boss. So if each boss takes 10 minutes to kill, and that's a fast Nightmare, then it's still going to take you 4,000 minutes to even pretend to see one of these orbs.
We're not talking about orbs at all. Orbs aren't a part of what we're discussing right now because orbs aren't getting the dupe thing.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying the drop rates in general.
Yeah.
I think they should increase all of the drop rates, including the orbs.
Dang. Okay.
Because, like I said, they're making it so that the orbs are going to be highly sought after as the best in slot against weakness style enemies, and they're hiding it behind a crazy long
If
grind.
it's gonna be the best in slot at these weak to elemental enemies, I think it actually makes sense to keep them higher because then they have a lot of value and it will actually get people to want to go there.
I mean,
In my opinion.
yeah, that's only a actually real opinion since last week. And this boss has been out for years.
Yeah. Whatever.
Kind of crazy.
Anyway,
Yeah, I just don't see a really good opinion for them not increasing the drop rates.
good reason for them.
Yeah.
Inquisitor's Mace Armor. The feedback was the Mace buff being dependent on a full set doesn't help its utility on Slayer tasks, including boss tasks like Serb or Grotesque Guardians. I'm assuming because your Slayer helm,
Yep.
right? Yeah. So they're thinking about doing something that they did for Crystal Armor. Instead of relying on the full set, each piece of the armor will provide plus 2.5% damage and accuracy when used in conjunction with the mace, meaning you can still benefit from this buff while not wearing the full set. Which, I mean, that one's nice, actually. Because you want to wear your Slayer helmet at all times.
Yeah. Also, this is something that I mentioned to you earlier is I never thought about it this way until I was reading some people talking about it, and it makes sense is the reason I also want them to increase the drop rates.
Scrolling up, I was like, are you talking about what I'm talking about right now? You're
No,
going
it's for
back
the
to
Inquisitor
drop
Mace
rates.
as well.
Yeah.
Is because the Inquisitor's Mace is like none of these items are best in slot. Like I said, until last week when they made the elemental changes, none of these items were best in slot.
What's the best crush weapon then?
I
Is it
mean,
not the mace?
it might technically be like
I think it is.
this is okay. Best in slot does not mean what you think it means.
Okay.
Best in slot means like this is the best. There's nothing that supersedes it ever.
Isn't this the best full crush set in the game?
Yeah, if you're going against a crush boss.
Yeah, but that's what it's supposed to be used for, specifically crush.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Brother-
confused. Brother
How
mean
long
Bill,
how
what's
long does
happening?
how long does it take you to get bandos?
The full outfit?
Yeah.
Like a few
Not
days?
very long.
Maybe.
right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I mean. That
I was
is
spent.
best in slot for obviously Torva, sure, whatever. But that is best in slot for all of this content. Why does this take so much longer to get this set?
I think you should compare this to Torva instead.
Okay. All right.
Wow, that was a sassy laugh.
Uh,
Holy moly.
all I'm saying is this is a crazy long grind for a side grade.
It's a very
Like
long
Inquisitor's
grind.
Mace is still a side grade.
Yeah, it's the what's it called? Horizontal progression. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's more niche.
So, I mean, even with this buff, I don't think it'll be like, crazy strong or anything like that.
Okay. I've always wanted Inquisitor. I don't think I've ever used it. If I have, I've only just borrowed it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll still use the set. I mean, people use the set, but like, it's just hard to say, oh, I need 600 mil for this side grade when you can just buy the full Bando set for 40 or 50 mil.
Well, I guess it depends what you're grinding. If you're grinding something that's weak to crush, you're gonna want the best if you're gonna be there for a long time.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing you always want the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like there's a, like a what is it, like foregone thing. Essentially, like it's just not worth it. Like you unless you're a maxed account, you're gonna spend that 600 mil somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay.
Like you just will. I don't know.
I mean, that's with a lot of stuff in the game, though, really, because
Yeah.
we're so big on the horizontal progression stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to the Elder Maul special attack. So the feedback was that the accuracy was still pretty low and not much better than the Dragon Warhammer, and that's when they decided to give it the plus 25% accuracy that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, I'm still not fully understanding the path of Atmakin. Some people were saying that they were testing it and it was working different than how they thought it would and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'll just read some of the feedback and stuff like that, and hopefully someone else can make better sense of it. So they said some players wanted clarity on how bamboo shamans work. Volatile baboons and cursed baboons would be impacted by the path of Atmakin changes. So the likes of the baboon shamans, volatile baboons, and cursed baboons are treated as regular NPCs with no style specific max hit weakness.
Kind of feels like they do have that sometimes.
Yeah. Though some of you jumped into the beta and tried this one out, we'd like to clarify that the HP for these NPCs no longer scales with raid level. Okay, so that's why a lot of people were confused. Is previously these mobs would scale with raid level health.
Yeah.
Freeing you up to zoom to your heart's content is now hopefully what they're going to achieve.
Are they saying that's going to be a thing in the main game, or is that just in the beta? That's not going to change their hit points. I read it as only in the beta. It's you could zoom through in the beta.
No, I think what they were saying is that how people thought it would have worked is that their HP would have increased how it does now, but with these changes they don't.
Oh, interesting.
That's how I was reading it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm not sure. But that is all for the time being. We're not planning to update beta worlds with these changes, since the majority of them are at a glance number based. But you will be able to if they'll be able to update it if it's felt absolutely necessary. Wow, I was struggling to read that. Please keep sharing your thoughts with us. We're extremely grateful for all the discussions we've seen so far.
Okay.
Overall, the version 2, much better than the first version. People were very upset yesterday, and they seem pretty chill today. That's what I've seen, at least.
Yeah. I mean, they seem a lot better than what they were.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Before we get into the Q&A, there was actually one more thing that we could go over real quick.
Sure.
That's the official cookbook and map of Gilnor journal, which is out now. So, grab your ingredients and throw on your cooking cape. It's time to make the most mouth-watering recipes in Gilnor with RuneScape, the official cookbook. Out now, available from your friendly local bookstore online retailers. It's a 144-page book that is available globally in English, but will soon be published in German by Panini Verlag. Panini!
Yeah, I wonder if that's someone's name.
I was wondering that. So the Colomancer, is that how you say it? Romancer is back, and he's bigger and better than ever. Level up your culinary skills and rescue beloved NPCs with RuneScape, the official cookbook. But yeah, the cookbook has over 50 recipes. They have like the cute little cake. Apparently there's supposedly a recipe to make burnt shrimp taste good. We probably will not be buying this because it's not...
Yeah, probably not.
I feel like it might not be vegan friendly.
If I had to guess.
The burnt shrimp is probably not tofu. I don't know. There's also a A5 hardback journal that has the map of Gilnor on it. This one actually looks pretty cute. It has 192 ruled pages with a ribbon marker and elastic closure to keep things organized. So that's it for some new merch that's gone out. But yeah, with that, we could probably get into Q&A.
Sure.
Yeah. Our first question this week is from Matt over on Discord. All games eventually become less popular and unprofitable over time unless you're Tetris. How do you think Jagex can prolong the life of OSRS? And do you think they'll try to release a new game after OSRS or just call it quits after the game reaches its natural end?
I don't know. I was reading another question. You answer first.
Yeah. So I I think prolonging the life, they're just gonna have to keep adding more stuff, like more raids and things like that. Honestly, I think that that will prolong the life just fine. I don't think that any game can go on forever. You know, eventually will end.
Yeah.
After the game reaches natural end, they're definitely gonna release a new game because at the end of the day, they're just a big company that wants to make money.
Yeah.
They're already making a new game or something. I saw something about it on LinkedIn. I follow Jagex.
Are there really?
Yeah. Well, Jagex is not RuneScape.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
your own thing.
I don't know. I think they're just gonna keep going until no one plays the game anymore.
Honestly, yeah.
So,
At
I
least they're
mean,
not doing like what Animal Crossing did, which is that its peak of popularity just stopped doing updates for no reason.
yeah,
Still bitter.
that's really weird. Yeah, I think they'll just continue to put out content until people stop playing the game, which might be never, or might be soon, or might just, become more popular. Who knows?
Question 2 from Matt. Relate to the first. What multiplayer game do you wish was still popular or had a remake that allowed online play for the first time? For me, that'd be Mario Kart Double Dash. I think it was the best Mario Kart game, but it never had a full online mode like the new games. Club Penguin.
Okay, I
I
never
don't know.
played it.
It's the you never played Club Penguin?
No, I was playing real games.
Like what?
I don't know when was that?
Same time as RuneScape.
2007?
Yeah, around
The
then.
height of World of Warcraft? Yeah, I was probably
You
playing
were playing
that.
WoW when you were like 11?
Two, yeah.
You weren't playing Club Penguin?
By the time I was 11, I had already watched all of the James Bonds and played the game hundreds, if not thousands of
We
hours.
get it, Robert. You had an inappropriately what is it? Inappropriately aged video game filled childhood.
And
You played and watched so many movies for adults as a kid, and
I
I'm like, bro,
the only reason I wasn't playing World of Warcraft is because I couldn't convince my parents to pay for it. Because it was monthly. It
expensive.
was the same price back then that it was now, $15, as far as I understand. And I got to like level 14 or something, and that was like that was it. So I played a little bit of World of Warcraft. I was playing Guild Wars 1 and Ragnarok Online.
Okay.
I played real multiplayer games.
I played Club Penguin.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you think it wasn't a real multiplayer game when there was a lot of us on there.
Oh, there's multiple people standing around.
There was multiple of us, but we were penguins.
Oh, what were you playing?
We just like walk around. There's an iceberg, and you try to tip the iceberg, and everyone's drilling on the edge of the iceberg, right? And you're just waiting for it to tip, and you're like, it's finally gonna happen. It never tipped until they ended the game. They actually tipped it, and there was a DJ on the other side, I guess. It was a few years ago. And you have puffles. Those are your little pets. They're little fluff balls. And you got clothes, and there's quests, like little secret spy quests. Remember, there's like a pirate thing. There's mini games. There's a lot of stuff in Club Penguin. And if you say any bad words, you get banned for 24 hours.
Oh, that's cool.
I said the B word once. I went to play as a teenager because I was being edgy and cool, and I got banned.
That's
What
really mean.
would you bring back?
Um,
Club Penguin? That's absurd.
Games that I would bring back.
Yes.
Multiplayer games. Honestly, I don't know. I think most games that have died, it's probably for the best.
Except for Club Penguin.
Sure, except for Club Penguin.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Startle.
Like Guild Wars 1 was really fun.
What
But
was the game? Oh, I don't know if it's multiplayer. The James Bond one that you were like showing me the video of them playing the waiting music.
that was 007.
007. That wasn't multiplayer, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was on the N64 before multiplayer existed.
Had me watch a video to be like, listen to how good their music was.
It was
It
sick.
was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty
It
good.
was actually sick. Yeah, all those games were pretty fun. If they were multiplayer, then all of those games, but they weren't. I mean, like one of the most popular and like most reminisced multiplayer game that I've heard of. I didn't play multiplayer because I was like too poor to afford Xbox Live.
Yeah.
Was Halo 2 multiplayer.
Oh.
That was like the first game that a lot of people are like, oh, we used to hop on the microphone and like talk
microphone.
trash to each other,
Like,
and we'd be shooting each other, and it'd be yeah, I mean,
Halo kind of come back like last year.
Halo's still really popular. I just think it's kind of a trash game in my opinion. But
So bring back the good version of it from the
yeah, I want to
OG.
experience that because people said it was really good, but I don't know if it like was or if they just thought it was good.
Okay. Next question is from Harrier on Discord. Do you think there should be a potion that temporarily increases the size of the minimap? That way players can both see farther ahead and click farther ahead. I'm gonna do you one better, Harger. I think that you should just be able to zoom out more, not even with the potion. Not like an absurd amount, but I think that a lot of the minimap just kind of seems like it was to disincentivize like people going AFK is my impression of it. So
Yeah, I don't know.
I honestly I think they should be able to zoom out more anyway. And just so you could click and run and like go refill your water without being or like without being completely stopped for multiple minutes.
You should just be able to click on the big map and just run from there.
I think I've tried after like playing other games before. Like I go to do that and I'm like, wait, wrong game.
Yeah. Temporarily increases the size of the mini
I
map.
don't think it should be crazy just to say. Just that you should be able to zoom out a little bit more and still have it be clickable.
I don't really know. That just seems weird because then it's like you're
Yeah.
probably gonna want to carry around the potion all the time. So I think as a potion that would be lame. Maybe as like a setting, you could just turn that on. That'd be fine.
Mm-hmm. It's like how I said.
Yeah. As a potion, it's kind of, I mean, you would just have it all the time, right?
Yeah, it'd be like one of those things where it's the new meta and now you're always taking up this inventory spot with a potion.
Not even that. That'd be the same as like, oh, I want my game to look, sharper. I have to take this potion. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of weird.
It should
That's
just be a setting on the game.
yeah, that's more of a setting thing and less of a potion thing.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you could have the inverse as a potion for PvP.
That you have to zoom in.
No, that it zooms your mini map in
Oh.
so that it's harder to see white
Oh.
dots until they're really close,
Oh, kind of spicy.
or red dots rather.
Yeah.
So I think that would be cool for PvP because then it's all like,
Makes it even harder to find people.
yeah,
People to find
like
you.
maybe if you like use it, anyone that is at that very moment within like 100 tiles of you is affected by it or something like that.
That'd be kind of funny.
And
You just
like,
know someone's within because all of a sudden your mini map is like, and you're like, who's here?
yeah, you don't know if they're going for you or I mean, 100 tiles is really far.
That
So
should be so funny. Just the panic you'd feel when your map just suddenly zooms in for no reason. You're
yeah,
like, oh my god.
it's like you immediately just start running south or teleporting because you don't know if it's you. So that'd be kind of funny. I mean,
That'd be
just
really
make it really
funny.
expensive to use or something like that.
Yeah,
Then that the inverse of that would be cool. But yeah,
that'd be really funny actually. But yeah, that is it for the Q&A this week.
yep, that's gonna be about it. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you did, you can check out our social medias, and we have a bunch of them, right?
Yeah, our TikTok and Twitter are Bunebapeosrs. Our Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch are Bunebape. I stream 5 days a week at twitch.tv/Bunebape. And reminder, the day after this comes out, I will be doing my fundraising, and that's to go to Runefest. And then 2 days after, Megan, my friend, is doing fundraising for kittens, which is, yeah, slightly more important. So twitch.tv/Megan Eve. Go stop at her fundraiser as well, please.
Yep.
And if you're not there for both of them, you're banned.
Okay, there you go. You heard it here first. Thanks for
Easy.
listening. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you all.
Very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.